Hello, I'm Lucia, working in the export finance team of Société Générale in Madrid.
Hello, I'm Vincent, working in the export finance team of Société Générale in Paris. Today we are going to present the export financing. Who are the key stakeholders? How is the financing structures, and what are the benefits and challenges of this activity?
Export financing is a thrilling activity. It has an important impact for emerging countries, and it increases the reach for exporting companies, even for small to medium-sized. Export financing is governed by the OECD arrangement, and it is available for corporate, project finance, as well as for sovereign.
Among emerging countries, we can take a look at Africa, where several countries have identified development plans of infrastructures in various sectors. Mostly public infrastructures, ordered by sovereign in key sectors like transport, health, energy, water and sanitation, media and telecom, with more and more focus on environment and sustainable angles. Over the years, banks like Société Générale have set up export financing with different sovereigns on this continent in support of exporters' projects. As an illustration, the bank has signed the financing of a priority project with a West Sub-Saharan country for the delivery and setup of several bridges in its capital city as well as in isolated areas of the countries. It is a French SME who was selected to perform the contract. To proceed with this transaction, you will see that export financing is also about cooperation on an international level. We are now going to look at the stakeholder of this financing. First, the importer. In this transaction, for bridges, which are public infrastructures, the importer is the Ministry of Transport, backed by its Ministry of Finance. Here, the Ministry of Transport had identified the public infrastructure's needs and launched an international tender to various exporters specialized in this type of project.
The exporter. It is a French SME specialized in bridges engineering, production, and delivery. They already have an international experience. For this project, they propose a turnkey solution, ensuring the full installation locally at a competitive price. The Export Credit Agency. They represent the government of the exporting country, and they will offer the guarantee to the bank financing the importer. For this transaction, it is the French Export Credit Agency who was involved. Each country exporting infrastructures has its own Export Credit Agency. Let's have a look now to the financing structure. The financing structure is quite simple. The importer will sign a commercial contract with the French exporter. In parallel, the importer will be signing a credit agreement with the bank. The bank will be getting support from the French Export Credit Agency. So why is it this way? You would realize that in emerging countries, if you are going to make an investment of several millions, you will need a long-term contract to cover it. But banks maybe are not very keen to offer 15 years to 20 years financing to an emerging counterpart. So what happens? The bank will get comfort because the Export Credit Agency will provide a guarantee. With that guarantee, the bank will be able to consider a very long-term risk on an emerging country. Altogether, this helps the French exporter to find a very nice contract with the importer's country, while the importer gets access to very long-term financing with the bank.
What are the challenges for this export finance transaction? We need to put together a structure which will imply people from emerging countries in Africa. With government officials, they have their own timing, their own constraints in terms of budget validation and allocation. You have the French exporter who has to respect its construction and delivery schedule. Then you have to coordinate the bank with teams in various countries depending on the origin of the exporter. Altogether, it is a real teamwork, and we have to put together these structures, getting everybody's approval, making sure everybody understands what is at stake, because we are going to be together as a team for sometimes 10 years, 15 years or more. So it has to be very well managed and fine-tuned. We have to manage the key risk as well. For a bank, there is of course a credit risk, which here in this transaction is linked to the country risk. These are both covered by Export Credit Agency cover. You have to analyze as well the environmental and social risk, confirming that the evaluation and monitoring are well anticipated. The performance risk with the exporter is to make sure that the French SME has the capacity to deliver, what are their track record, their financial situation. Then you have the compliance and the KYC of all the counterparties. All these risks are duly analyzed. We know the exporter, the importer, and we have this quite organized structure in the bank to deal with emerging countries.
After the signing of this financing, the French exporter has been able to start producing the bridges with first deliveries in the next months. Under this cooperation between the exporter, the importer, and the export credit agency, we are proud to have participated in this key development project. For the French exporters, they find support to export infrastructure to an emerging country. It contributes to develop their business to international markets, ensures turnovers, and creates employment in their country.
This case study of bridges in Africa is a good example of building resilient infrastructures. It promotes inclusive and sustainable growth fixed by the United Nations under the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDG. For this emerging country in Africa, the delivery of bridges will allow improvement of the transport networks, sometimes reducing traffic jams in cities, time to transport, and contribute to decreasing pollution. For isolated areas, bridges will facilitate access and enhance services to the population. For example, one of the bridges in a rural area will provide a shortcut of 30 kilometers, with direct trade benefits for producers, breeders, fishermen, making the region a future economic hub as expected by local authorities.
We are very pleased that we talked about the export financing solution with illustration through this transaction in Africa. Thank you very much for your attention.